This programme was made with support from the National Lottery Heritage Fund. On the Heritage Channel tonight, part 2 of our Armed Services feature with a focus on Grimsby, a cinematic future for the famous fish docks, and we're back in the Casbah with some of the creative people behind the regeneration of this historic area. Welcome to the Heritage Channel, where we explore the fascinating history of North East Lincolnshire in a monthly roundup of news, views and local stories. One of the first organisations to take over a building in the charismatic Casbah was Creative Starts, a community service run by Sam Delaney, offering hope and support to those recovering from drug and alcohol abuse.
So we was the first, I think one of the first to be approached. We wasn't actually approached for a building, we was approached for a mural. We got chatting and they discovered that we were a little bit more than just an arts organisation. They liked that. They said that there's a place for that down here, pick a building. So they drove me around the docks. I was like a kid in a sweet shop, I think. So I was like, I just said, can you give me one where the roof's not falling down? And they gave us this one. When we came in here, it'd been empty 25 years. It was in a real mess. So it was like, right, okay, rolled our sleeves up and we're still at it now. The building's more than just a building to us. It's a symbol of what is possible from people that were vulnerable, that have come through adversity. So we had the Great Escape theme, which was for many different reasons, really. The Great Escape was, well, it is an escape down here. But the building is like an art project. It's similar to how we would have planned a mural. So downstairs was a workshop for a long time. And then it wasn't really being used how we wanted it to be used. So we asked our community again what they wanted. They said that we want somewhere we can come and sit down. So we put in a community space, it looks like a cafe. But I think it's a bit more than a cafe. It's what we call a community venue. So there is now the cafe space. There is a special toilet, which kind of put us on the map. I think the toilet, which is it was definitely something that people were interested in because it was done in a style called the Louvre. So that was popular, and it's become a community centre with a difference. I mean, I don't think there's probably not many like this in the country, to be honest.
So there's all the restoration work, there's the decoration, the cooking, the cleaning, all of that, but then there's the events management side of things, getting groups going. So this Saturday night, just gone, we had a metal gig down here, which I think is a first for a lot of different reasons, and that was incredibly loud, amazing experience. Not sure we're going to do too much of that to that degree, but we're really hopeful to get more music events going.
We like to do pioneering things. And this is just a perfect place for that. For me, these docks it's the place for me in Grimsby. I don't know what it is about the place. I think it's unique to the country. I think it's at that point where anything can happen. It feels like home. This feels like home to me.
The Petersons Project aims to bring 2 beautiful historic buildings back into use. Vicky Hartung from the Petersons Trust and Catherine Bigg from Heritage Lincolnshire explain more about the project and the building's future.
The Petersons Project consists now of 2 buildings that the Great Grimsby Ice Factory Trust has taken on long lease from ABP.
Funded by the National Lottery, the Architectural Heritage Fund, North East Lincolnshire County Council and Historic England to restore a gorgeous 19th century traditional smokehouse in the centre of Grimsby Docks, and another wonderful late 19th century, early 20th century building that is opposite the new fish docks, and restore them to their former glory and bring them back into use as something that is meaningful to people who work on the docks now, and hopefully encourage more people to come back onto the docks.
Well, the smokehouse will be a fully functional smokehouse which will be capable of producing Grimsby traditional smoked fish in the Grimsby traditional smoked fish way. This building here, these will be returned to their use as offices upstairs. They're going to be really nice.
It's all very well having all this wonderful capital project work, but what's a building without people and the community that use it and have used it? So we've been brought on board to run the Petersons Oral History Project. And we're going to tease out about 6 to 8 stories that we think really are the epitome of the spirit of these buildings and of Grimsby Dock. And we're going to tell these stories using audio playback of the memories, through interpretation and objects to create a small exhibition that will be fitted in either Petersons or Building 89 once capital work has been completed.
No cultural area is complete without its resident artist. We caught up with artist in residence Dale Mackey in his Docklands studio.
An artist in residence means that in the studio for at least 2 years and you're working from the environment that around the docks. I was asked by the guy who was doing the coffee on the docks down below to produce an exhibition of my work, but I thought we'll have an open exhibition for everybody. 35 artists who got in touch with me, so we've got at least 100 works. There's quite a few surprises. There's John Hopkinson, who sadly died a couple of years ago. He was a really famous Grimsby artist. We've got Sarah Webb, who is a professional artist in Grimsby. Martin Shaw is a painter and decorator, and he paints on wallpaper. The actual exhibition opens to the public on the 28th of this month, and it runs through till the 30th of September.
More heritage news now, and work has finished on the latest project to receive Townscape Heritage funding on the Cleethorpes historic Alexander Road. Co-funded by the property owners, the project included reinstatement of the historic shopfront and first floor bay windows, repairs to the roof and redecoration of the front facade in heritage colours. A new Grim and Havelock exhibition at the Fishing Heritage Centre celebrates all things Grimsby thanks to the National Lottery Heritage Fund. Organised by the Equality Practice and inspired by the legend of Grim and Havelock, the exhibition is part of a project that involved people of all ages in exploring our origins. The project also includes the restoration of a historic statue, a beautifully illustrated children's book, and a writing competition in partnership with Hammond House Publishing. And Heritage for the Future will encourage local businesses, community groups and individuals within the heritage industry to find out more about saving our local heritage and how they can support local community groups and organisations. Free delegate tickets are available now from Eventbrite.
Did you know that breastfeeding is not just good for the baby, but it has so many health benefits for mums as well?
So it reduces our chances of premenopausal breast cancer,
cervical cancer,
ovarian cancer.
It reduces the incidence of postnatal depression,
Osteoporosis,
heart disease.
So it helps us lose weight and get our bodies back quicker.
You know, those benefits are not just for the here and now, they last mum a lifetime really.
At the peak of Grimsby's time as a premier fishing port, this now derelict building produced 1,200 tonnes of ice daily for the vast fleets of trawlers based in the town. Over the years, members of the Ice Factory Trust have fought hard to prevent its demolition and are delighted that it is now to be preserved, restored and repurposed to meet the needs of today.
The Ice Factory Trust has been involved with the Ice Factory since 2010, when we formed our trust to try to make sure that it didn't get demolished, and you know, we were successful in that, I would say. We were not able to raise the money necessary to transform the building into something usable. But Tom Schutz has come along and bought it from Associated British Ports, and he's got wonderful plans for it. planning permission for the ice factory to be turned into a business centre and conference and events space, which is absolutely perfect for Grimsby. He also has planning permission to build a 161-room hotel right next door, which will service not only the ice factory but also renewables companies that are situated here. A few years ago we applied for funding from the National Lottery Heritage Fund for Project Ice, which captured the memories of a number of people who worked at the ice factory, and some of them are absolutely fascinating. I mean, the insights into working practices right back from the 1930s are fascinating.
Yes, well, my father was a cooper. He served his time at Drury and Copeland's down the dock. And when I was a little lad, I used to go down there on the Saturday morning and not work with him, but watch them all work, because there was quite a few coopers there.
Exciting. The engineer was a great engineer, a chap called Len Shaw, and he was a rough and ready sort of guy, a very good engineer, and they were asking me questions, and then the manager came in and he was the real aristocrat, you know, with the bowler hat and trouble at mill type of chap, you know.
I think I worked there, I think it's 24 years. I think it closed a year before I was going to get me watch, like, you know.
Oh,
I was a little bit unlucky there, like.
Oh, you never got your watch?
No, it's 20, no, I think that was a year to go, like, you know, and I just missed out on that because it closed.
All of us, all the trustees, are absolutely over the moon that the ice factory now has a future.
North East Lincolnshire has a long and proud association with the armed services. In this second of our two-part feature, Gemma discovers some of the historical connections with Grimsby.
Across Grimsby and Cleethorpes there are hundreds of war graves and memorials dedicated to the local service personnel who have fought in our armed forces. If you remember, back in December last year we were in Cleethorpes looking at some of the memorials, but today we've come to Grimsby to explore some more. This is Grimsby Cemetery, a sprawling graveyard in the heart of the town and home to over 500 war graves dedicated to the men and women who gave their lives during the wars. "291 of these graves are from the First World War, many of them belonging to seamen who served with the Auxiliary Patrol. Operating out of Grimsby, the Auxiliary Patrol was an anti-submarine initiative which saw British fishing trawlers commandeered to patrol the waters around the British Isles, many of them from Grimsby and the surrounding areas. There's a further 261 war graves from the Second World War, with over 200 of them forming a war graves plot. There's also another 17 war burials of other nationalities, and most of them are German prisoners of war from the camp at nearby Wheelsby. Amongst the war graves at Grimsby Cemetery, you'll find a memorial to Corporal Blewett, Lance Corporal Lewis and Sergeant Lincoln. Sergeant Robert Lincoln was the eldest son of Bob Lincoln, the well-known Grimsby author. Robert joined the Royal Flying Corps in December of 1914. He trained as an air mechanic and subsequently saw action as an observer over the Western Front. He retrained as a pilot, but in November 1917 he had a serious flying accident in England and died from his injuries in Cirencester Hospital on the 11th of November 1917. He was buried in Ainsley Street Cemetery on the 15th of November 1917, and he was just 28 years old. Also in Grimsby Cemetery, you'll find a memorial to the Drury sisters. Harriet and Dorothy Drury were the daughters of Joseph Clifton Drury and his wife Betsy. Harriet was born in Grimsby on the 2nd of July in 1894. She enrolled in the Women's Royal Naval Service as a telephone operator on the 5th of April 1918 and served with the Royal Navy at Immingham, where she was attached to the shore establishment named HMS Wallington. Sadly, Harriet contracted influenza and died on the 31st of October in 1918. She was buried in Scartho Road Cemetery on the 2nd of November 1918. Dorothy was born in Grimsby in 1901. She enrolled in the Women's Royal Naval Service as a telephonist on the 2nd of April 1918. She died of tuberculosis on the 25th of February 1920 and was buried alongside her sister in Scartho Road Cemetery 3 days later. The two young sisters share the same war graves headstone.
I am speaking to you from the Cabinet Room at 10 Downing Street. I have to tell you now, this country is at war with Germany.
The Grimsby Chums were a PALS battalion in the First World War, a group of local men that enlisted together and stayed together. In the early days of World War I, Lord Kitchener became Secretary of State for War and was one of the few to foresee a long, gruelling war. He organised the largest volunteer army Britain had ever seen, known as Kitchener's Army. When the call reached Grimsby, the headmaster of Wintringham Grammar School decided to raise a 250-strong company of former pupils. This company was offered to the 5th Battalion, Lincolnshire Regiment, but by then that battalion was full. With an overwhelming number of local men wishing to join, the town council set about recruiting enough men to form an entire battalion of its own. Bringing volunteers from towns across Lincolnshire, including Boston, Louth and Scunthorpe, there was even a group sent from Wakefield in Yorkshire that completed the battalion, and it was officially named the 10th Battalion of the Lincolnshire Regiment.
I started my interest with the Grimsby Chums through doing my family history, and we discovered that two of my granddad's brothers and his brother-in-law all enlisted. The two brothers, Jim and Arthur, enlisted in the September of 1914. The brother-in-law was a little bit older. He was married to their sister and he had a family, and he didn't enlist until the February, but I presume that's because his wife didn't want him to.
Well, my dad was in the First World War, but he started a bit later because obviously he's one of the younger ones, and so he didn't actually go into the Chums. But I know that my husband's family, his grandfather did.
When we looked at family history, we realised that on my mother's side there were 4 brothers, all served in the First World War, but the youngest of the 4, Arthur, actually was a member of the Chums. And I believe also my grandfather on my father's side was.
And we also know that Paul's great uncle, he was actually the chaplain to the Chums, so we have got a little bit of history there with the Chums.
The Grimsby Chums joined the 101st Brigade and were shipped over to France in January 1916. What they didn't know is that their first battle would be one of the war's largest and bloodiest, the Battle of the Somme. On the 1st of July 1916, the Grimsby Chums were in the first wave, attacking the fortified village of Le Boisselle. To aid their attack, a massive mine was detonated beneath the German trenches, leaving behind a vast crater, which the Chums rushed to occupy. Here, they were trapped for the rest of the day, pinned down by both German and British artillery. A few of Grimsby Chums made it into the German trenches, led by 2nd Lieutenant Harold P. Hendon, who led a group of men and held off a series of German counterattacks.
When I spoke to my father, it's as if he didn't really want to say too much about what went on.
They wouldn't speak of it. I've since found out that the Pioneer Corps, or the engineers, were the people that tunnelled to lay all these mines underneath the German lines. That's what my grandfather did.
James and Arthur Boone lived in Cleethorpes and Fred Tasker lived in Grimsby, and all three of them were there on the 1st of July, which was the first day, and two of them sadly were killed on that day. One of them, Arthur, hasn't got a grave. He's on the Tietvar Memorial. Fred Tasker, he's in Ovilas Cemetery, which isn't far from the Lochnagar crater.
In total, the Grimsby Chums suffered 502 casualties on the 1st of July. Only 2 of the officers and 100 men came back unwounded.
I think what is interesting is, considering there was 4 Johnson brothers that went to war, and you can imagine how the parents must have felt, because there were so many dying in the First World War. All 4 of them returned. So it was lovely, the fact that the 4 Johnson brothers all came back. They all went into their own businesses. Some of them were made furniture. Paul's grandfather went back on the docks, working at Immingham Docks.
And for his services, just after the war, he was awarded the British Empire Medal for a lot of the work he'd done at Immingham. So, as you can see, they are Grimsby through and through.
I've been to both France and Belgium several times, about 14 in total. It's such a magical, seems a strange word, but it's such a peaceful place, and they look after the war graves and they honour the boys who died, because they were only boys, and it's just people should go and they should remember what these boys died for.
We must never forget, we must always remember that their lives were given for us.
Finally tonight, we talk to Emma Lingard about APB's exciting plans to bring the best of the British film industry here to Grimsby.
So Associated British Ports' vision for the Port of Grimsby has come about based on the fact that we've been in demand quite a lot for the film and television industry. So we saw an exciting opportunity to add value to when production crews come and visit us. The film and television industry like Grimsby because it offers a diverse mix of authentic character buildings. So you've got a nice mix of styles, you've got nice street scenes, you've got some original features of those buildings, and that's a big attraction for film companies because most are coming up from the south. London has become overpriced, and London has also lost a lot of their old buildings now, so they're looking to the north for those opportunities. Well, in the last couple of years, we have had Netflix to film Bodies, which was a sci-fi thriller. And then before that, we had the crew with 3-Day Millionaire. And then if we cast our minds back a bit further, many people may remember the film Atonement with James McAvoy and Keira Knightley. So part of the scenes set in France were filmed here on the port. So with the amount of inquiries that we get, and knowing that when crews come here for financial and logistical reasons, it makes sense to keep them in a location for longer because that also benefits the local economy. Then we looked at opportunities and a vision for developing soundstage space. So we've started to look at a vision that would see us develop 172,000 square foot of space, and that would include soundstage, production buildings, so they've got offices to keep their headquarters here, but also water stage. We're looking at that potential in that if we build it, they will come type of attitude. So we know from many years there is such a rich mix of creatives. Many don't see an opportunity and they of course leave, and you get a brain drain as everybody, you know, goes to the big cities. So with the vision that's happening within North East Lincolnshire, where the town is undergoing big development right now and money is being plugged in, it's the right time to strike, to keep people here. We've already started planning the vision. We're currently master planning that and how it will look and how it will work, and looking at the opportunities and the constraints of the site. I personally think this is a rather exciting time for ABP. We can see the potential and we're willing to give it a go. Luckily, we have got an amazing head of property who has come in. He sees the vision. How long? 5, 10 years? You know, this is not a, quick walk around the park. This is long-term investing and planning, but hopefully people will see things in the next couple of years. Yeah, it's an absolutely great vision for the future.
Well, that's all from the Heritage Channel tonight. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel or join our Facebook group to make sure you don't miss any of our programmes. From everyone at the Heritage Channel, thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next month for more heritage news, views and local stories. Programmes on the Heritage Channel are made with support from the National Lottery Heritage Fund.